I was always a skinny kid in school, had like a six pack, but I was skinny. You know what I mean? I was kind of one of those kids that just had good genetics, but no idea what he was doing. And then I had like some kind of beef with like a group of boys in school, like, and that, yeah.
Typical.
Yeah. Like, honestly, it was just me against like there must have been like 15 or 20 of them.
What, just you 1v for 15?
Yeah, they all just like circled me and I got absolutely done in. Like I can put my hands up and say I got absolutely done in.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Chatzzz. And we have a very, very special guest today. Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how we doing?
Yeah, good. So we met the other day. What was it, Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday in the gym, yeah.
On Tuesday, mutual friend, Olivia, shout out. And she was like, oh yeah, you need to get Ben on the podcast. And you go in, well, you're traveling tomorrow here.
Yeah, I travel to Thailand tomorrow for 4 days. And then I don't know how long I'll be out in Asia for, but another maybe 2 months in Asia minimum, and then just see where I end up.
Nice. So we had to get this podcast in ASAP, didn't we? Before we did a tight schedule.
Yeah.
So how we start the podcast is how you would introduce yourself to a stranger or someone, like if you're meeting a taxi driver, what would you say that you do, or how would you introduce yourself?
That's a good question. So yeah, if I was in that scenario, I guess I would start by saying that I'm a body transformation coach in a nutshell. I help people build a sustainable lifestyle with training and nutrition, educate them so they can be fully independent. I used to work mostly in gyms for the first 5 years of my career. And now I work predominantly with people remotely who want to kind of just get fully independent. They might have had a few coaches before in the past, PT or something like that, or they might be a complete beginner, and I just get them from point A to point B until they don't need me anymore.
Nice. Because I think that word that you said, sustainable, is the key, isn't it? Yeah. Because so many people these days would want results in like 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And then they just revert back to the way they were before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because really, if you want to be healthy or fit long term, it needs to be sustainable, doesn't
it? Yeah, it's because of impulse. A lot of people are impulsive when it comes to training and nutrition. They don't see it as something that they're going to do for the rest of their life. Like, at the end of the day, like if you don't see it that way, what's going to happen is you're going to be impulsively driven into trying to change your body for the, maybe, I don't know, you went through a breakup or someone said something to you, you saw a picture of yourself, you went on holiday and didn't feel comfortable, and then you start doing all these kind of ridiculous things that are all based on impulse and the wrong reasons. When you have to look at training as like, it's a privilege to be able to do it. There's people who've like lost limbs and people who don't have that privilege to do that, and then people take it for granted. So I genuinely think that a lot of people miss the beat with it. And really, if you look at it as like, okay, I want to do something for the rest of my life. I want to feel good for the rest of my life. I want to wake up with energy. I want to go to sleep every night and feel great. Then what you're going to do is act accordingly to that. If you're like, oh, I just want to get, a few pounds off for belly doll, and then every year you're just going to be chasing that same cycle, and it's not going to teach you anything. It's not going to develop you as a person. It's just going to stress you out, because you're chasing like just one amazing picture on a holiday, and then you're just going to go completely wreck it all, So that's the way I see it is like, we need to look at it as a long-term sustainable thing, like you say,
Yeah, because that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm chasing that. I'm going to Ibiza next month for my mate's stag do.
Yeah.
And I always look back to my pictures in 2018, I think it is. And I think, oh yeah, I was in such good shape then.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, I've been nowhere near. And I'm comparing myself now to then. And I'm thinking, oh, this isn't good. But relatively to the most population, I'd probably be in class as good shape.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's all like mental, isn't it? I'd say.
I mean, circumstances change in life, and we have to realize that, 2018, for example, I was competing for my 4th bodybuilding show. I don't look anything like I did then, right? But I was absolutely destroyed doing that. Like, I was training 6 times a week, 7 days a week, an hour on a Stairmaster, eating the same thing every day. Didn't even go out for a meal at the weekend. My coach was like, nah, you're not doing any of that, just to get in shape. And I got in insane shape, but I was obliterated for months afterwards. I was so socially awkward because I hadn't been around people for so long. I just isolated myself. So, you can look at your life back then and you might have been living a good life. You might not have been. You might have actually been kind of reclusive. You might have just been focusing only on training. But whereas now, I think when people look back at stuff like that, right now you're networking with people all the time, you're doing podcasts, you're enjoying business, and you're still keeping a good routine the best you can on the side. So it's like, I think a lot of people get really self-critical and actually like take away from what they're actually doing in other aspects of their life. And I think training should complement that. If you make your whole life around training, take it from me, I did that. You really become a little bit like, there's not really much to you. So it's about how you can like do a good amount of training, look good, feel good, and perform at a high level. Like, but I think when you look at just the appearance stuff, it can get a little bit, I don't know, you can make bad decisions.
Yeah, definitely. Priorities change, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's just finding something, like you said, that's sustainable. Like for me personally, I just like to go to the gym first thing in the morning, get it out of the way, and then I've achieved something, then I can get on with my day and I don't have to worry about going to the gym and that mindset, because it sets you up. It gets the endorphins flowing, doesn't it? And ready.
Definitely.
So let's go to the 3 facts then. Have you prepped the 3 facts?
Yes.
In your head?
In my head.
Oh, nice. So go for it.
So obviously most of your listeners will be from Cumbria. I am Cumbrian born and bred. I grew up near Hayton. I went to Hayton Primary School and I went to William Howard School in Brampton. Now my family is mostly in Brampton. So I've been in Cumbria most of my life. I left Cumbria when I was 20 years old. I moved to Glasgow. So you can probably hear my accent. I've got a little bit of a Scottish thing going on because I did business with Scottish people for 8 years. Absolutely loved Glasgow. It was a really, really big part of my career. Only recently moved out to chase the remote life and you know, do the whole cliche of having a coconut at the beach while doing my work. I obviously don't post my office for the day. I like that big cliche. I don't want to do that. But yeah.
I've had worse Mondays.
Yeah, that's a typical thing. So yeah, like, that's number one fact about me. I am Cumbrian. You might not know that. It might sound different. Second fact is I am a musician on the side. I have 15 bass guitars. It's something of a soft addiction, you might say. Absolutely loved it. That was the kind of last thing I did in Cumbria. 2 years of music college. And then that was like, when I left that, I was like, there's not really much happening for me here at the moment. I need to go away and then come back. Third fact about me is I absolutely love traveling, which is probably easy to guess, but I absolutely love traveling. And I've always, don't know how long it's been in my head for, but I've always wanted to get out and see the world and just be in a position where I can do that. And that's honestly the dream for me. I've sacrificed a lot of things to get to that position, but yeah, like I'm chasing that fully now. So the third fact, I guess the first 2 things I've done already, I've kind of completed those in a way. And the third one's an ongoing thing that I'm working on.
Nice. So then how did the love of bass come about then?
In school, everybody was, I grew up in a really musical family. Everyone was playing instruments and I tried to kind of like find my thing. You know, my granddad, he said to me in his last days, he said, listen, learn how to play an instrument, learn a skill, get good with your hands about something. So I tried trumpet. I was absolutely terrible at it. Honestly, trumpet is so difficult. It's like,
it looks easy though.
The lip movement, like your cheeks are just destroyed, like after doing it consistently. So I tried that, tried guitar, and then no one played bass in school. No one was playing it. So I took it upon myself to play. And then I started becoming like quite good at it because I was spending 3 hours a day playing. And I went to music college and I was the only bass player there. So I was the go-to guy for it. And then I just got really hooked into kind of the instrument. I just was like super dedicated to just making that instrument sound as cool as possible, like look as enjoyable as possible. Because most bass players, they just stand there and
stiff.
Yeah, they stare at their feet and it's a shoegaze band. That's what we call it. So I just wanted to make the instrument cool. I wanted to find it fun. I had a lot of influences with it as well. So yeah, honestly, just love it because it's funk and soul. Funk and soul is kind of my jam. Motown music, all that kind of stuff. I feel it's timeless. And bass is just a cool instrument. I just have so much love for it.
Nice. So then you said you enjoyed playing bass when you were growing up. What else did you enjoy when you were little?
I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so it was mostly like countryside walks. I liked movies. I'm a massive movie buff, and definitely feel like it's kind of a thing that's fallen away from me a little bit now. Like in terms of like, I'm not finding many movies that I love.
What's your fave?
My favorite movie.
That's a tough one. It's like asking what your favorite child is.
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think if something's got like a good Hans Zimmer soundtrack to it, and it's got like a strong story. Like the last one I watched is one of my favorites is Last Samurai. I absolutely love that film. It's just so immersive. And people who say they don't like Tom Cruise, I'm like, oh, come on. Like, come on. He's got
classic, isn't
He's
he?
got so many amazing movies. And like, he's probably like the last beacon of hope in Hollywood. Like the latest Top Gun film was amazing.
Yeah, I used to love Top Gun.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, how many people are making movies like that and influential and that kind of stuff? So I'd say like, yeah, in that category of like, you know, the, what's his name? Christian Bale's Batman's, like, you know, that kind of thing, like that kind of epic, you know, rise and fall style movie is my thing.
Yeah, because Hollywood actors, like back in the day, or even now, they just seem to be set like apart or set aside from society, don't they? Whereas these days it's, I mean, like the social media influencers, and you've got like an insight into their life and what they go up to day to day, whereas they're quite intriguing, aren't they? Like, what do they actually do? Or like, what do they have for breakfast? And you always say like their morning routine, but is it actually their morning routine and stuff?
Yeah.
But I feel like Hollywood is kind of dying out, isn't
Yeah,
it, really, these
it
days?
is dying a bit. And it's kind of, I think even people like, I listen to this on many podcasts, I'm sure you have as well. A lot of people that are living in LA kind of seem to be wanting to get away from it. Like people are moving to like Texas, like you listen to like Joe Rogan's podcast and people are always talking about how they want to be away from there and things like that. And I think it's definitely changing. And I think when we grew up like looking at all these actors and like kind of maybe reading, I mean, I used to read like Men's Health magazine, right? And it'd be like all these like guys' routines and things like that. But now that's so accessible to us, the kind of like stargazing thing that we're doing is kind of falling apart. And a lot of people are like, aren't really looking up to these actors as much anymore. Like there's not really one big actor that everyone's like, oh, he's the thing in Hollywood right now. When we were growing up, it was like, there was always like an actor that would just jump onto things. And then as soon as the Chris Pratt era came along, no one was really jumping on it. So yeah, I do think it's changing. And I think that it's so accessible to see inside people's lives now. It's so, you know, you can buy all these programs online from these so-called celebrities that do them. And really, I mean, I could talk about that for ages, like how it's just generic, it's someone else who's done it. But back in the day, like obviously we didn't know what they were up to really. Like we kind of just assumed that they had a really good lifestyle. But now, you know, it's kind of like the wonder of it's not as exciting because we don't think it's unknown anymore. It's just so known to us.
Yeah, that's so true. And I was reading something the other day, and there was a study or a report or something. I can't remember who it was by, but it was like the 10 most influential people in the world.
Yeah.
And say 9 of the 10 of them were people that created content. So for example, like Gary Vee and Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah.
Can't remember the other ones, but it just shows how important it is to say create content to influence people these days in a positive way.
Yeah.
It was like the percentages of positive tweets and negative tweets and that kind of thing. So you said, obviously you really love traveling. Did you do much traveling then when you were a kid?
Yeah, actually, yeah. My parents were was really fortunate that my parents really traveled me like quite a lot. I think the best trip I went on when I was 6, I went to Florida, I went to Disneyland, and that was incredible.
Paradise,
yeah, it was just, even to this day, like obviously your memories at 6 years old are pretty like limited, but like I remember quite a lot of that because it was just amazing. I mean, it's not like I'm going to some kind of mesmerizing location. It's different, but that was like a big trip for me. And then after that, we went around Europe quite a lot. So much so that I'm going to Asia all the time. Like I really want to go east because I went to France, Germany, Spain quite a lot. And then Austria, I went skiing as well. I did a lot of skiing holidays in Norway, Sweden. So yeah, I saw a lot of the world and I kind of had a bigger vision from a young age, I guess. And I'm really thankful to them. I always say, listen, I'm so thankful that you guys took me traveling every single day. I'm always grateful for that because it's gave me more of a push to go somewhere else other than like, you know, your all-inclusive holidays and things like that. For me, that's just my idea of how like I want to be in control. I don't want to be stuck in one place, but at the same time, I love my routine. So it's kind of like I'm in a position where I'm not really on holiday as much. I'm going there to like lock myself in a room and build something and like work on something. So in like 10 years time, like I'm just kind of, you know, operating something amazing.
Yeah. So when you were young then, you're going on these holidays, what was kind of like the feeling about it? Were you excited? Were you just kind of like used to it? Was it like the norm or?
The excitement was definitely a thing. Yeah. The excitement and the kind of, you know, thinking, is this how life can be? You know, consistently like not thinking of it as like I'm on holiday. I'm thinking of like, what would I do if I lived here? And I think that's always kind of like, it's held me back in many ways, like being in the UK, because I've always had that kind of like, even in like relationships that have came along where I've been like with someone that doesn't, I get a feeling that they don't really want to travel and they could happily just kind of like stop having those kind of thoughts about traveling. I'm just like, oh, the world is so vast. There's so much possibilities. There's so much room for self-development just by being immersed in something different. So I guess it planted all those seeds for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think especially in like Cumbria in general, there is as a whole maybe like a mindset of stay here all your life, whereas there is like a big wide world out there, isn't it? And there's so many. If you haven't lived away from home, I'd always recommend it to anyone to just move to a different city or a different country or whatever, just to experience things. It's very different living in a foreign country than it is going on holiday.
Absolutely. Like,
it takes the time to adapt, doesn't it? Like if you're there for say a few months and you get over the first week or two when you're thinking, oh, I'm going to spend all this money, this is so fun, and then you're like, oh, the reality is I'm actually here for a long time. I need to find my way and my routine and that kind of thing. So progressing through school, that was fitness and sport and stuff a big part of your life?
It actually, I guess I kind of had something in me. Like, I can't really describe what it was. I had this kind of like urge to do something for quite a lot of my, I mean, I was always a skinny kid in school, had like a 6-pack, but I was skinny. You know what I mean? I was kind of one of those kids that just had good genetics, but no idea what he was doing. And then I had like some kind of beef with like a group of boys in school, like, and that,
typical.
Like, honestly, it was just me against like there must have been like 15 or 20 of them.
What, did you 1v for 15?
Yeah, I got, they all just like circled me and I got absolutely done in. Like I can put my hands up and say I got absolutely done in. And
well, if you didn't, then you'd have been doing something.
Yeah,
special.
right. I don't know if I'd managed to win that situation. Yeah, who knows? But that pushed me. I was like, nah, I want to be able to defend myself, and I want people not to mess with me as much. And then obviously I just started lifting weights and realized I didn't really care about that. Like, and as a result, I could just never really attract conflict anyways. People try me and I'm just like, no worries, mate. I'll have a nice chat with you, and then you'll just realize that there's nothing for you here to push for. But like, yeah, that pushed me actually. That really pushed me to kind of like feel a bit more, not secure in my surroundings, but like a bit more respected and a bit more like kind of like just had a bit more kind of confidence about myself in that kind of situation. So that pushed me actually. And obviously I didn't really like how skinny I was growing up, and like I would get picked last in like sports and things like that. And that used to grate me. And then I started doing all that. And now people would ask me like, oh, can you help me lift this? And I'm like, yeah, that's a good feeling. You know what I mean? That paid off, you know? So I saw quite a lot of like, you know, like a big resurgence in kind of my fitness at that age, but I didn't really have the right guidance till I was around 20.
Okay.
So it was about 4 years of just messing around and being quite like, you know, not swallowing my pride and just asking for help, as a lot of men obviously don't do.
Yeah, it's such an important skill to be able to ask questions. A lot of people don't. They are too scared, or I don't know, they just drop their ego or swallow the pride, like you say, and to just ask, because what's the worst someone could say is no. You're like, all right, just ask somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated.
No.
So then at 16 then, when you picked up the weights, why weights then? Why not, I don't know, jiu-jitsu or some other kind of sport?
Yeah, it's a good question. I did judo growing up. So that was something that I did. It's quite a funny story. I remember going to like, it must have been like my fifth lesson, and I did something wrong. And the sensei just came up to me. I don't think he was supposed to do this. I spoke to a few people about this. I'm not going to say where it was in case I out the guy. But like the guy like just like slammed me to the floor like full on. I was like 7 years old or something like that. Went home that night just like, proper traumatized. May as well took a cold shower. I was just like, it was brutal. So I did that. And then, I mean, weightlifting was just like a feeling. I still have that feeling to this day of just empowerment. Like when you just, you hit a really good session. Don't get me wrong. Like the thing that people don't realize about going to the gym, particularly by yourself, is you're just going to have days that you can't be asked. And like a lot of people think that I just get up every day and I'm like, can't wait to go to the gym. It's just like, I've already accepted that I'm going though. You just accept that you're going to go. But like weightlifting, I think it's like you need to kind of have your eyes on a compound effect of things, right? And it teaches you this kind of way of going into the gym and thriving for, like, you might lift a certain weight one day and you're like, oh, I wish I was lifting X weight. But you have to accept that the price of admission is you've got to keep going, right? And I think what weightlifting does, not only physically for your body long term, it's so beneficial, but mentally is it teaches you patience and teaches you a good, healthy attention span to things, which a lot of people struggle with these days. And I think weightlifting might be the one thing, like going to the gym and lifting weights might be the one thing that keeps people going in a really healthy direction. And I think if people weren't, like, because the fitness industry boomed, like in 2015, when I moved up to Glasgow and I became a coach, it wasn't that big. And then like 2016, it just blew up, and then it just went all over Instagram. Now it's all over TikTok. You know what I mean? So I think weightlifting, it's not so much just the physical benefits that I've seen from it, but it's mentally what it does for your kind of your mindset towards being consistent. I think it's so beneficial.
Yeah, consistency is key in all aspects of life, isn't it? Because you can't get results anyway without putting the work in, really. I think that's detrimental effect of that is social media and Instagram. People see these overnight successes, but they haven't seen the 10 years or a million hours of work that they've put in. But the question I want to ask you is, can you remember what flipped that switch to pick up the weights? Was it just literally, I don't know, your friends were going, or you just thought that was the right thing to do, or what?
I guess I've always kind of been quite like a left turn person. I mean, even now I'm obviously like doing this thing where I'm wanting to leave the country all the time and go chase something different. I think then I was like, I didn't go to sixth form, so but I would still use the gym in the school I was going to. And I guess it was just like, everybody's doing X and Y. I want to do this. Even like when everyone was playing guitar, I want to do this. I don't like cliches. So it was partly like me wanting to go in my own direction with things. But I guess it was kind of a lack of confidence thing that really, a lot of people reach this point, some earlier, some later, but you just reach a certain point and you're just like, you know what? I need to make a change, and I just want to feel better. And if you genuinely deep down feel that you deserve something better, a lot of people like don't actually think that they deserve something good. But if you genuinely think you deserve something good, you will do something about it. But if you don't have that belief in you, you need to work on that. But I had that belief that I deserve better than this, and that even to this day is just what's keeping me, changing that switch, because it changes all the time. Like now it's just like, right, I want to, be able to help 100 people in a month with a really, really accessible service that can help people and teach them all the stuff I've learned over like, my life's work of doing this. Even from that point, I've been a coach for 8 years, but I'd say from the age of 16, when I flipped that switch, I started leading by example. And I want people to kind of be able to feel the way I did when I started seeing the headway with that, because it was just life changing for me. And I never forget that. So yeah, I think for me, it was just wanting something better and knowing deep down that I deserved something better too.
Yeah. Because I just started going to the gym when I was 16 with one of my mates, just because I wanted to get ripped and impress girls. Yeah. But then you realise that the only people you really impress is the lads, isn't it? The lads are like, oh, you're looking quite big, or you're looking quite toned or whatever, or muscular and that. Yeah. And girls don't care how much you can bench press or how much you can squat.
No one cares. Yeah.
You said about you've always wanted to be different, always wanted to do something different than other people. Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like I don't like I'm kind of a lefty. I'm not going to talk about politics in the UK. It's nothing to do with that. It's more like I just see the way that's paved forward, and I don't like feeling as if I'm following somebody else's blueprint. I kind of like, in business, I'll take value and advice from someone else's blueprint who's been successful, but then I always want to put my own spin on it. But life, I think that the best thing about life is that you absolutely have the means of doing that if you want. So I think it's just I don't like following a crowd. I never have. I never actually like sailed into a group of friends in school. I always had friends dotted around all these different groups of people. You know what it's like. Everyone has these kind of people in these different groups, and you always have this kind of popular people and people who are kind of weird. And I had friends dotted all over the place. I just don't think I think I'm just like, I just see life as fluid. Like life is constantly moving. Why do we try and put it in a box? Like life moves and only dust settles, really. Like we should always be feeling like we're moving forward and progressing in relationships. If we're having families, it should always feel like it's moving forward. So I just don't like the feeling of kind of falling into a clique and just conforming to this direction because everybody else is doing it. And I just think that's just always been in me. I can't describe where it came from, really. It's quite just it's just a trait of mine that probably has led me to start my own business,
Yeah, because I think society these days does try and make people conform, don't they? Like go to school, sixth form or college, whatever, go to uni, get a job, and then that's you get a wife, then you buy a house, then you have a kid, and then you retire, and then you die. Whereas you said about you think you deserve better. I think a lot of people maybe do think they deserve better, but they may complain about that, saying, oh, I deserve better than this. But really, you need to have that confidence in yourself to know that you deserve better and actually go after what you want. Because I feel like that's the thing that holds people back is that they think they deserve better, but they don't have the confidence to go after what they want because of like the judgment of other people and not conforming to society. And they're not doing what the norm is. And people idolize these people who've got successful businesses, successful careers or whatever, but they're the ones that are being different from society, aren't they? And they're the ones who are actually going after what they want and what they actually deserve and that kind of thing. So I think it's important for people to remember that, really. And you mentioned about you gained your confidence when you were 16 to like 20 lifting weights and that kind of thing. But then why do you think you weren't confident then growing up? Was it just because you were that skinny kid and you didn't really have a set friendship group or what? Because I think it's important for a lot of people who aren't confident. A lot of people aren't confident. I'm not confident in certain aspects of my life, but there's a lot of people that aren't confident. So why weren't you confident? And then was the gym the only thing that helped you get over it or what?
Yeah, I feel like maybe I had some kind of victim mindsets in there, like maybe being the youngest kid of 4. Like I grew up on my it was, I feel like, there's no like kind of beef with any of my brothers and sisters or anything like that, but like there's a pecking order in it when you grow up. And I feel like I always felt like I got disciplined the most. Like the 2 like middle siblings, like they got away with so much. And I always kind of felt like, do I just deserve to be like picked on? Because I got bullied as well growing up in primary school. And I think that made a huge difference to the way I thought about a lot of things. It made me think probably that, no, you don't deserve X and Y. And I think it's kind of like allowing certain things that happen to me to get into my head and kind of stop confidence from in its tracks. I think that's what a lot of people do, particularly like even some people I've spoken to, like take like a mum of 2 that's probably done Slimming World, right? And she's thinking about like, obviously losing body fat, but the last time she did it, it just obviously was a complete, disaster. And she didn't really get ahead with it. What she's going to think is that deep down, or maybe it's just not meant to be, right? If something doesn't go your way once, or if someone's mean to you or someone bullies you, you can actually start to form this belief system that is what you deserve. And it's like, what I mean is like changing that switch from, no, I don't deserve that. I deserve X and Y. So I'm going to act like I deserve it. And that's the key. It's like, you can't just become confident. It's not a feeling. It's like the same way with motivation. It's like, yeah, I'm just waiting for that motivation to come. It's like, yeah, you're going to be waiting a long time, buddy, because that's just how it is. The best thing to do is act like you're confident and do the things that the confident people are doing with that at the moment and just start doing it. And, lo and behold, in a few weeks, in a few months, in a year or 2, you will get confident. Confidence is an experience thing. So I guess for me, it was obviously choosing not to be the victim anymore, because I felt like I was victimized in many aspects, but I realized that I can't go through life feeling like that. So many people are like, we all know, we all have friends that we have to give a shove right in, here and there and go, come on, mate, pick yourself up. It's not about you. Like in the best way possible, it's not about you. It's about like how you kind of live and how you kind of live in correspondence with what you want.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And there's some phrase or some saying that it's like you're only motivated when you see progress, isn't it? So you have to put in the work, and then when you see a bit of progress, then you get more motivated, don't you? You're not going to be motivated at the start. And like you're saying that when you're good at things, say when people get older, they do less things, don't they? They only do the things they're good at. So people think, oh, they're really good at everything, aren't they? But for me, you'll never see me ice skating. I'm terrible at ice skating. But yeah, you may see me like playing football or doing a podcast or doing the marketing stuff, because I know I'm good at that. So I'm playing it safe, but I'm good at the things I do, but I'm not good at the things I don't. But I won't do them because it's like a confidence thing. Which is massive. So then for you, what was the plan when you wanted to leave school? Did you have anything in mind that you wanted to do, or?
Well, yeah, I can thank my mum for like the way she didn't encourage me to go to uni. Like I actually think that she was quite influential at that point in my life when I remember sitting there. What was it you used to write? That big thing that was like all these personal statement or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I remember like trying to write that out, and I was like, this is just a headache. Like,
use ChatGPT for that now.
Yeah. So many people will, and like, but you guys didn't have to go through the stress we go through now. You know what I mean? So that was I just never really thought. I was like, hang on a minute. So I'm going to go there and we spend all this money. And now I'm so glad I didn't, because so many people went And it was obviously maybe 3 or 4 years of partying, but like a lot of people got in debt for it. Like a lot of people had like nothing to really
I'm in
show
debt
for it. Everybody, a lot of people are. And it's kind of like, you got to think that I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories, but like the government's really rubbing their hands and going, thank you very much for that. You know what I mean?
Part of the system.
So yeah. I mean, I didn't really, to be honest, when I left school, I went to IT college for 2 years. It was one of the worst things I ever did. It was the most boring. I just messed around and wound my mates up and like had a laugh. And it was 2 years of just absolutely nothing. But the only thing that really progressed was my music. So to be honest, I left school and I had no idea what I was doing. I had absolutely zero plan for the first couple of years. I felt like I was just like drifting, you know?
Like coasting.
Yeah, and that I definitely didn't really leave school with a big plan, but I knew I liked lifting weights and I knew I liked playing bass. And those are the only two things that I knew. 2 years of music college, realized that I didn't want to make money off music really. It's just a passion. Super hard. And the lifestyle that you lead, like a lot of people who do it like are really, I mean, musicians, like in the greatest respect, a lot of them are really difficult to work with, like extremely difficult. A lot of them are rock stars, prima donnas. They're not reasonable at times. So they're very kind of like, artists are very proud people. I just don't really have those kind of traits. I'm kind of a disciplined person. And I feel like when you're a musician, you live like kind of like a party lifestyle quite a lot. You live a spontaneous lifestyle. And that's something I'm working on, the spontaneity part of my life. I definitely enjoy my routine way too much, which makes me kind of robotic when I write music or play music. But in a way that does work, you know, if you still have the passion for it. So I guess like, you know, when I left, it was like I had all these components, but nowhere to really put them and nothing that really was going to catch fire in terms of like a business or a career. So I didn't really have a plan. And that's the thing, like sometimes you just don't have a plan. You just like, you end up in a position, you're like, I'm actually lost here. But like, you've got to see the opportunity in that, like, you know, like for instance, you probably never even thought like a few years ago, you're going to start doing podcasting. You know what I mean? Like when did that come about? You know?
Yeah. So I started doing a podcast, was it? Because I had a previous business partner in Cardiff and we started a podcast maybe 2019-ish, something like that. But I wasn't really into it that much. I wasn't really that bothered. And then it was 2021 and my mate said he hated his job. He wanted to do something different. And I was like, oh, so if you didn't have to work, didn't have to earn money, what would you do? I was like, oh, I quite like podcasts. I was like, all right, let's set up a podcast. So set up a podcast. And then, yeah, it's kind of just progressed from there, really. And yeah, I love it. Honestly, it's just like meeting, connecting people and having conversations you wouldn't normally have. Like we wouldn't normally sit down for an hour and chat, wouldn't you? Which is really, really cool. But so then going back to what you wanted to do then. So then obviously you went to the IT college. But then what was next for you? What was after that?
I mean,
what was the mindset at that time? Would you be 18, 20, something like that?
Yeah, I was 18. And I mean, the only thing I was spending my money on and doing religiously was playing music. And
that's what I wanted to say. Give us an example of someone being a diva.
Oh, that's a good one.
Anything memorable?
It's just kind of like, not like when you're in a band of people, you all have to, every single person has to have their ego in check. They just do. And you can always tell when someone doesn't have their ego in check. I mean, there's so many like kind of examples of probably people in bands, like famous bands, you know, that, I mean, I'm trying to think of like a really good example. I mean, like
on the spot here.
Yeah, the Beatles are probably like an example of that, because like if you watch like some of the documentaries of like the kind of the creative differences where they might write something and other people go, well, it's not really, it's crap, mate. You know what I mean? And then, oh God, it's my song, you know, and you get like, the people get really caught up on that kind of thing. And it's like, sometimes you have to kind of accept that what you've done, it might not be as amazing to other people, right? And that's fine. And the good thing is that one idea might just absolutely catch fire, one won't. But it's when people get too hung up and too avant-garde in their own kind of like, oh, it has to be like X and Y because I did it. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes, like you say, when someone goes on the X Factor and they definitely shouldn't have gone on it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, it's a bit like, that's what you can sometimes get. So it's being able to, I think what makes a diva in the music world is someone who can't take criticism, someone who is too kind of obsessed with themselves, and someone who wants it all to be about them. You know, and I think that really, because a band is a team. It's like a business as well. When I'm in a band, it's just like a proper business thing. It's not like we're friends. It's like we're creating a project and it has to be a really high standard. Whereas some people are too kind of flamboyant and kind of like up and down with it because a lot of musicians aren't really into health and fitness. Not a lot of them are. Typically, no, not a lot of them are. I'm kind of the black sheep when I go to like band settings or rehearse. People are like, they see me pop up and they're like, what you do? I'm like, I'm a PT or whatever. And they're like, oh, I can tell. And it's like, no one's into the gym. People are going out for cigarette breaks. I'm sitting there eating chicken and rice. You know what I mean? It's
Living
like,
the life.
yeah, it's an entirely different thing. So I think like for me, like I don't really have that diva nature in me because like I've been around people that would just kind of chin me for it and be like, what are you playing at, mate? Like in the gym space, that doesn't work. Like people will, like I've been around a lot of coaches, and coaches are pretty disciplined people, and they're obviously going to like, you know, they're going to cut the BS with someone and be like, mate, sort your life out. Whereas if you do that to a musician, you're not going to hear from them for like 4 or 5 days, maybe like in a few months.
That's mad. So then when did the idea come about that you wanted to be a PT, or how did that happen?
Oh, it was like I left. So this is after I left art college. I did 2 years there of music. And then I went into working in kitchens. Like I worked as kind of like I would prepare like the starters in kitchens and things like that. I worked at a few restaurants in Carlisle. I was still in Carlisle at this point. And I got like so like into my fitness during that period because I felt so like, I mean, like when you work in kitchens, you drink a lot, like you go out and you party. You're in hospitality. So you just immersed in that world, and everyone goes for a drink because it's high stress. Afterwards, you just want to get a few pints. And then before you know it, like, you're in outrageous or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Right? So that would happen a lot, and I partied a lot. Like when I moved into Carlisle, because I moved from Hayton into Carlisle. It was like a 6-7 month stint, but it was mental. And I just felt during that time that I was like, I had one foot inside my gym lifestyle, one foot inside this party lifestyle, and I chose the gym lifestyle because I had an unhealthy amount of like drive for it. Like it was unhealthy. Like I was like proper pushing myself. But I was like burning the candle at both ends. I was like, well, I've got so much drive for this and so much passion for it. Like, why don't I just try like, you know, using this for other people, because other people really need to hear my message and kind of hear like, you know, or be around this energy, because when you do have that energy, like people gravitate towards me when I'm not. Like, for instance, when I was in Bali for 6 months there, people party a lot there. People drink a lot. Yeah. It's just like you can be on a holiday like that, and it's any minute you want. You just close a laptop and go, I'm going to go to a beach club and I'm just going to have some fun, right? And that's how it goes. Whereas I'm still really disciplined. So I just be like, no, I'm good. And people are like, how do you do that? Like, you know, how do you like go away from the crowd like that? Like, well, just because I know what's waiting for me on the other side. So I guess for me, it's just always being able to just go, nah, I'm good, thanks, and say no.
It's powerful to say no. Yeah. A lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah. Oh, that's the big thing I really have learned since doing all the traveling, is that everybody has a choice. Like, people don't realize, a lot of people here, particularly in Cumbria, they don't realize that you have a choice to be here. Like, you've chose to be here. You don't realize that. You actively chosen to do what you're doing. If you're unhappy, if you're happy here, fantastic. If you love the lakes and you love the countryside, no wonder. It's amazing. It's like, that's the best part of Cumbria, 100%. Some good people here as well. But if you're generally needing more inspiration and more skills and you want to go somewhere else and develop yourself, you can choose to do that. That is an option. A lot of people they don't look at it as if it's a choice. It's a choice, but they also look at what they're doing right now and don't see that as a choice as well. Everything is a choice. The best thing in life is to realize you have choices. You might have certain things if you have family or anything like that, you know, a partner. But if you have people on board with you and they're going to support your decisions, make a choice.
Yeah, that's a very, very valid point. But then how did it come about then to become a PT? Did you do one of these like courses where you do like 6 to 8 week crash course, or did you do it through like a gym, or how did it work?
Yeah, when I moved out of Carlisle, I went up to the village outside of Glasgow called East Kilbride. It's like kind of like just a bit of a dead end like village, but I did a course there for 6 weeks, and then there was this gym that everybody was raving about because it had like 10,000 members, so many people going there. And a lot of kind of obviously business for PTs and like a lot of development because you're just like in front of so many people. And one of my friends worked in one of them at Leeds, a Pure Gym. Like, obviously now it's a bit of a different company, but then it was like the place to work if you wanted to obviously develop into a PT. So in my 5th week of the course, I mean, my sights were set on that position. I mean, everybody would turn up to their interview wearing like shorts and gym wear and all that. I rocked up with a suit.
Oh
like,
yeah,
a full
love
suit.
it, rate it.
I was like right in there. It's like, let's go, And the big thing the guy in Leeds told me, he's actually a guy from Cumbria as well. He said, just like tell him about how much you want to teach classes. Cause the deal was you worked, inside the gym 15 hours a week. You didn't get paid for that, but that was basically like your rent for the gym. Yeah, right. So I just went in, sat down, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I genuinely was, but I was like, I can't wait to teach classes. Honestly, just can't wait. I'm so buzzing. I've never taught a class in my life, right? I just completely winged it for the first year. And then I got the job in the 5th week, and like everyone on the course was like, wow, that's really impressive. Like you've got a massive break there. And then that was it. I was plunged straight into business. Did I know what I was doing? Absolutely not. Like, did I know like where the next month of money was going to come from? No. But like, to be honest, like when you run a business, like it's not about that. It's just about like the passion and the drive you have for it. This just attracts the right things. There's nothing spiritual about business, but like there's a lot of it that's kind of all about how you stay in belief of your skills and like and your passion and things happen as a result.
Yeah, definitely. What did you learn then working at Pure Gym?
I learned
in that period of your life.
I learned that it's
different, isn't it? The theory to actually the practical stuff. Like you say, learning classes, I bet you never thought it was going to be like that, or actually training people on the gym floor, because it's different doing it yourself than doing it with people.
Yeah, I learned that my course was kind of like just a waste of time because it didn't teach you anything about being a business owner. It didn't teach you anything about really like how to speak to people. Mm-hmm. I think as a coach, it's about how you can speak to someone and really empower them. Like when someone's low in a class, like you can't like use biology or like, physiology to help them. You got to go and give them like, come on, mate, you got this. Like, let's go. Like the big thing I learned was how to encourage people, how to empower them and how to make them feel like they've got something. And I think that in a nutshell is the big thing that comes from just any fitness space of like challenging people, because you are kind of a point of authority. You are kind of a leader. And I learned how to become more of a leader because you're in front of a spin studio. You learn how to read people's energy, and you learn also like a big part of it, I think, is just the element of looking at something and being able to like from an anatomy point of view and be able to solve their problem. That comes from experience. But that for me right now, like, I mean, I'm around the gym sometimes and I can see someone doing something. I'm not going to go up to them and say, hey, mate, you're absolutely butchering that exercise.
It's probably me.
But I need to kind of like, I have that in me where I'm like, I look at something and I'm like, I want to solve that problem. So it's just learning how to solve someone's problem, whether it is a discipline thing, a motivation thing in the moment, or like, something to do with how they're moving and training. You know what I mean? Like that's what I really learned from it,
Yeah. So then did you have any other jobs before you went online then, or how did things kind of change? Was it a COVID impact or?
Yeah, I mean, I had some online clients in 2019. 2019 was like where things were moving a little bit, online. And then I was so busy though for like 3 years. So
on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, I finished competing in 2018. I was absolutely gubbed. I went traveling. I went to Bali the first time, which massively, changed a lot of my perspective. I went to Bali, Thailand, and Australia for 5 weeks. And then I came back and I was like, I spent way too much money. And then I just kind of, from that point onwards, I was like, right, Bodies by Ben is a business. It's a business now. Like it's a serious business that's going to really, really impact and change people's lives. So from that point onwards, I was like, really, really, really busy on the gym floor. Like I was like fully booked doing 45-hour weeks, 50-hour weeks. And it was brutal. Like I was brutal. Like I'll be honest, like I was burnt out, but I just kept it going. Like once you said yes to certain hours and like you've got like a certain level of like income coming in, like you just kind of run with it. But you realize that you're not actually your best self for the people that depend on you, whether it's your family and your clients, obviously your clients. So when it came to COVID, it was actually the most welcome break for me because I transitioned everybody online. And I actually like had an amazing year of business where I felt like I was helping people from a bird's eye point of view instead of like just going into the gym and like we're having a bit of small talk about the week, but really like I was so busy doing that with everybody. They would get to a weekend and I wouldn't actually be able to solve a lot of those problems when I'm doing like the check-in, procedure, looking at the progress from a bird's eye point of view. It was very, very limited. It was like a couple of messages back and forth. And really there's a lot of problems to solve, and there's a lot of moving parts in a fitness lifestyle to get long lasting progress. That person needs to know how to do it independently. They need the tools to be able to do it. And I was too busy to do that. So when it got to COVID, it was like, wow, so much time. Like my freedom was amazing. My work-life balance was incredible. I was in the best shape I'd ever been. I bought this like bicycle, and I was like cycling around all of Glasgow, and I was going absolutely like, you know, I was in the best shape ever, mentally and physically. And something then I think was like, right, you know, and then as COVID kind of rise, you know, it was rising and falling, and like obviously the gyms were opening, gyms are closing. That was a super frustrating time, obviously, as a coach. Like you never knew what was going to go on, and you had to really encourage people, like you had to really even get people to kind of stay positive. And then obviously as that leveled out, I kind of went back and forth with the gym. Like I left Pure Gym, obviously when I came back from COVID the first time, went back in the gym, and I was like, this is just too like up and down. Like, so I left, went to a different gym, and I met a lot of cool people there, but I always knew it wasn't a long-term thing. And then obviously I went away. It was around a year ago in June. I test drove going online for 5 weeks away, like obviously remote. And then I came back and I was like, this is it. And that's it ever since then. Ever since I think around November last year, I have been like, this is it now. I'm just doing this. There was absolutely no chance I'm going to do any in-person work, because obviously like I feel like my service is better without it because of that. Like, and that's why I work with a lot of people that they've had coaches, they've had people who help them with their form a little bit, even though I help people with their form massively now. I help people like who just want to get really good at being training independently and achieve amazing things. So yeah, I guess there wasn't any jobs in between. It was just kind of like changing the way you see your business in your head to kind of be like, right, okay, this is it. There's no other avenues, but this is the way. Like, this is the way people come into my business, and that's it.
Yeah, cool. Let's backtrack slightly a bit, I reckon. You talked about competing. So how much of an impact did that have on you personally and in your business? Did you really start seeing things progress and kick on when you worked in the gym and you were competing as well? Did you have more eyes on you, or how did that kind of fit into your journey?
Personally, for me, competing was very bad for my business in the sense that I was so exhausted throughout it. Like, it was very, very hard to focus on other people when you're so focused on achieving like a massive goal yourself. It's not just like getting in shape to go away on my ass holiday or whatever, like or go away with your girlfriend or something like that. It's nothing like that. It's like the most brutal, you know, driven and mentally demanding thing you can do. So you don't have much bandwidth. And there was like certain days I would just kind of like not be able to hold a conversation, which is like extremely important if you're working with people inside a gym. So it didn't really do a lot for me in the sense of like sustaining business, but in the sense of like actually being like a point of authority and being looked up to. I guess there was like a lot of guys that was working at the time that were like, wow, that's admirable. But I think competing, like when I stopped doing it, like business got better. And I think if I was to do it again, like I'd probably have a much better handle of it and I'd be able to do it. But I think that ship has very much sailed for me. But I learned a lot from it in the sense that like I've gone to the places that my clients will never ever go. Like I've done the most brutal things, diet-wise, cardio-wise, training-wise. No one really needs to do that I work with. Like no one. They ask me to do it. I'm never even going to give them like 100% of it. Like even 60% of what it takes to get in shape for a show is amazing for people to get in great shape. And if you can apply 60% of that effort while including 40% of people's life into it, like that's the balance. So what I will say about competing is it's definitely changed the way I operate with people and the way I coach people and how far I push them, because there's actually a certain level that people just don't need to go to that point. And I see a lot of it these days, and like I'm not anti-competing whatsoever. It might sound like it, I'm not. I have so much respect for people that are still in that sport, but there are aspects of it that I feel like people don't talk about, and there are things that people are doing to their body that are a bit undisclosed, and that's kind of the reasons why I left it, because my health wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. And I think from a female perspective as well, there's a lot of risks involved. So, I mean, you know, it's definitely helped the way I work with people and the way I program them, I push them with their diet, their cardio, all that kind of stuff. But it's definitely like, there's a cut-off, you know, like, no, that's not relevant to you because I've done that. You don't need to do that. And if you do that, then you're not really going to be able to live your life that much.
Yeah. Because when you're looking at these bodybuilders competing on the shows, they look really good, don't they? But they're not healthy at all. They're really run down, absolutely starving.
Yep.
And then most of them obviously have a bit of a bounce back and then put on loads of weight, which obviously isn't good. So then what kind of elements do you reckon you have taken from doing them shows to what you're doing now with your online coaching?
Yeah, like with online coaching, I think that strength training is like, and solid progressive overload with your resistance training, absolutely fundamental. I think it's such an empowering thing. You know, not so much for people that have been in fitness for a while. Like if people transfer over to like CrossFit or whatever and they're happy doing that, great. But for people who are like quite new to it and they start seeing the weights going up, it's like, it's better to look at your performance rather than your scale weight at the start. Because if you start to feel stronger, if you start to feel you've got more energy in the gym, which is what's going to happen if you follow like a basic sort of, I don't know, push-pull legs or a little bit of a bro split, that's what's going to like make you feel, oh, I'm really enjoying training. And I think what it does for people is like because my training programming, like I'm very proud of like the way I program people. Like I think it's like something that people like really start to enjoy because they can see how far they can push their strength. And I think that definitely has really, really sustained from my time competing. It's that people are like, wow, I enjoy feeling strong. I enjoy going in the gym and hitting a good session with a good intensity. Like people say this all the time, like, oh, it's pure bro, man. Like in the gym, like they moan about how hard something feels, but then actually like if it wasn't difficult, they'd walk away feeling disappointed.
Yeah, always. It's like me doing cardio at the moment. I'm absolutely dripping in sweat after thinking at the time, this is so hard. But then after I do it, I'm like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad it wasn't easy.
But like, what's the other option? You go to the gym and you don't work hard, and you walk home and you go to sleep that night like, I should have worked harder today. Like, do you know what I mean? Like everybody sleeps better when they put a good shift in. Everyone feels better when they put a good shift in. And what it does is it demands a high standard for yourself. Like, so I think that the training standards that I put on my team, it's not like I'm enforcing my beliefs onto them. It's actually just something that's for them, that when they start doing it, they're like, wow, like I can really push myself. Like I didn't know I could push myself. I didn't know I could lift X weight. I didn't know I could actually like take myself to that place in a session by myself. Like that's empowering, like, you know, and that's the one thing I took from competing, like that I can honestly say was super, and I still live by that now. There's certain things I do that I used to do competing that I still live by now that are massively like beneficial to my life. I'm still really disciplined, but it's just, I don't do I enjoy my food. I can have a drink, you know, I can take a day off the gym. I can take a day off work if I want now and just go, yeah, sorry, I'm going to take a day off today. Instead of before I was like, absolutely not. We need to, you know, it's like there was something chasing me, you know?
Yeah, I don't take enough days off. So then if someone's wondering here, what is an online coach and what do you do? And like, how could you help them? What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's relative, obviously, to the person. Everyone's going to say that, oh, it's relative to you. But like, yeah, I think what you can do for someone is you can take where they're at right now and give them a journey that gets them out of it, right? A lot of people are unhappy.
Like a roadmap.
Yeah. And I think psychologically, a lot of people need to kind of see what's possible in X amount of time. Just the way our minds work. Like in terms of if someone wants to lose body fat, they want to be like, right, how much of that is possible in X amount of time? So for me, like, you know, all the bells and whistles, training plans, nutrition, support, all that kind of stuff, we can talk about that. It's just so generic. Everybody does that. But the one thing that really keeps people psychologically invested in what I do is the journey that I map out. Because I'm like, in 4 weeks' time, here's what's going to happen. Then if you do that in that 4 week period, 4 weeks isn't a long amount of time. So already psychologically in someone's head, they're going, oh, I can do that. And then 8 weeks after that is when we're going to really achieve the bulk of our progress. And here's what's going to happen in those 8 weeks. They're like, okay, that's doable, right? I just need to do the first 4 weeks and do X and Y, right? So psychologically, and then 4 weeks after that, we're going to maintain that. So it's like when something is mapped out for someone, and it's not just kind of like, you know, I say this all the time, if you're emotional with a process, you don't know enough about it and you don't have it mapped out logically. Like this is something that a lot of people really need, is a logical approach and the right knowledge, because the more knowledgeable you are on something and the more kind of the numbers are put in front of you, the things to follow are put in front of you, the less you kind of go, you feel lost or overwhelmed. If you're just focusing on the right things, the right numbers, the right actions, and you're just ticking those boxes, you don't have that kind of, oh, what's going on? Or, you know, the scale weight might stay the same, or your pictures might not move. And you look at the numbers and go, well, I didn't do it. I didn't do X and Y properly. So being objective is the thing about online coaching. Whereas in a personal training thing, what happened was the tools were quite limited. I would put a couple of sessions in with someone. I'd do 2 sessions and they wouldn't really do anything outside of that. So, they can't really be as objective because they're spending a lot of money, but they're not really seeing something happen because they're depending on me all the time. Whereas I teach them how to do it themselves from an objective standpoint. And then they start to take ownership a lot more easy of the things that they're not doing because it's clearly in front of them, right? I'm not doing enough X and Y. When my macros are low on these days, my steps are really low. All I need to do to get to that outcome is change that. And it becomes less of, do I deserve this? Or,
Yeah, making people more accountable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like as soon as you remove emotion from a progressive journey, as soon as you take, in business, it's the same thing. Don't be emotional about it. Don't take it personally if something doesn't go your way. Objectively look at what you can do. If you apply that to every aspect of your life, a lot of people are really bad at this because they're impulsive. But if you learn how to do that, it's absolutely life-changing. And even now, I still have moments where I get emotional about certain things I'm working on. And I go, hello, look at the numbers, what you're doing. I'm like, oh yeah, I just need to do X and Y.
Yeah. I think it's difficult, isn't it? Like you say, when you do remove the emotion, say for me personally, you become numb to things. And then when you do achieve things, maybe you don't give yourself as much recognition as you deserve.
Yeah.
So it is as well for me personally, looking back maybe like a year's time and thinking, oh yeah, I've achieved that, I've done that, that's really good, and giving you more credit than you deserve.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I struggle with, and I imagine some people will, but then it's just like balancing the emotion to the process, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. So then from your first online client to now, how have things improved? Progressed? How have you gave your clients and your team a better service?
I feel like it's like becoming more level with them and becoming on their side with a lot of things. A lot of people are, how can I say this, dictators when it comes to coaching.
Yeah, like autocratic.
Yeah, you can't be like that. You have to be able to be personable. You have to kind of understand and empathize with that person to really be able to help them. It's not that I was really bad at that. It's just I didn't have, I didn't have all the knowledge at the start. Now I've got all the knowledge. And to be honest, in reality, to lose body fat it is actually really simple. To build muscle, it's a bit more intricate, but we can talk about that another time. But the thing is, what it is all about is being able to get to someone's level and speak to them where they're at instead of being so in your own head about stuff. And I think that you can't do that without experience. So I think as I've gone through competing and gone through all the ups and downs and the lowest points of my life, I've been able to really, really adapt my coaching to certain situations. And I think that's an ever growing thing. I don't think I'll ever master that. That'll always change and I'll always develop. That's what I love about business, is that you just keep playing a game. There's no, you don't just sit and you just let business flow. I think you always move. It's like a race. You don't stop. You have to keep moving. And I think that for me is the big thing that's helped my clients, is that the fact that I'm always improving and I'm always learning and I'm learning with them as well. So I think it's not so much one massive tool that I've added in. My service has improved in terms of logistics and all that kind of stuff massively, but I think it's the way you approach it and how personable you become and how experienced you are is just the wealth of everything in business.
Yeah. What's the best way for you to find clients then at the moment?
Yeah, I get some good referrals from people that come through, and people kind of have seen the results I achieved. I use Instagram to promote a lot of my stuff, and a lot of people are kind of pushy to get people to jump on a call with them or whatever, but I actually like to know. Yeah. Yeah, I like to know someone.
Yeah.
I do like to know someone. I do like them to trust me, because I feel like if you just try to get somebody into your service and they're not really as trusting into you, it can be quite problematic. But I think that, I kind of have quite a different view on it. It's changed over the years where why wouldn't someone want to work with me anyways? I've got a great service, but it's more about, I suppose I get people from just how I think. People enjoy how I think, what I have to say, and they gravitate towards me. And that's just kind of how it is. A lot of coaching is about whether you really resonate with someone. My coaches that I worked with, I resonated with what they were doing. And then as it developed, the coach I was with for so long, as a person, I just kind of was invested in them. I believed in them, and I looked up to them. So I guess it's just kind of being yourself. On social media, I'm quite unapologetically me. And if people don't like that, that's fantastic, because they're going to find someone that suits them better. If people do like that, then we're going to work well together.
Yeah, because I'm thinking there's so many online coaches now, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
And I think one good thing about you is that you've had that experience on the gym floor, because then you can apply that, can't you?
Yeah.
There's so many people I feel like set up an Instagram page, do that, plan the course things like, I'm an online coach, but you've never coached anyone before in your life. So how do you stand out then on Instagram?
I think you stand out by not actually caring what other people are doing.
100%. As soon as you stop caring what other people think, you'd be so much happier and you progress tenfold.
If you compare yourself to people on Instagram, if you're a business or a coach and you compare yourself to other people on Instagram, the big thing you can do is go, well, they're not me and I'm not them. So why are you even comparing? Because there's no aspect of your life. Like, their definition of success is so different to yours. So why care? Like, I don't care what other coaches are doing. I don't genuinely care. All I know is that the person I am will attract a person who's like me, right? The way I work will be amazing for someone, but it might not be great for the other person. And that's absolutely fine. Like, if what I do can change somebody's life, like, and it has done multiple times, that's all I focus on. So I'm quite like against, I guess, other people like getting like too into the business of other people. Like, I don't really pay much mind to
it's unhealthy.
I just think like, you're not going to be them. They're not going to be you. And a lot of people, like a really good friend of mine asked this the other day, because we were actually about to go on a bit of a business journey. Like, we've been friends for ages. And he said to me, like, what's the next trend? Like, what do we do? Like the next big thing. And I was like, maybe the trend is like not to be the trend.
Yeah. Like, we create so much content for like businesses and we don't create trends most of the time, because it's about brand building, isn't it? If you follow the trends, you're only going to be one step behind, or you're going to be the same as other people. And it's about building your personality, your business, your brand, and just putting across and putting out a valuable information, educating people, and just sharing your message. And like, people get so caught up with it. But yeah, it's important to just, like you say, be yourself unapologetically.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to say, who is your ideal client? If somebody's listening to this, who is your ideal person you think you can help and get the best results?
For me, I definitely see this as somebody who has seen some headway, but they've not kept it. So they've seen something happen in their progress journey, but for some reason it's fell apart. They might have had a coach, they went on holiday, came back, drifted away from it, and they're just feeling that they're comparing themselves to like what they were doing previously, where they were, and they're struggling to kind of balance the many plates in their life. And they're impulsively doing things. Like, they're trying to, like, they're going through like 2 to 3 week spells of like trying to be consistent, and then something doesn't go their way and they fall off, and it's slowly building a level of resent for fitness. I think that's really dangerous. And I think that that's a massive problem that a lot of people go through, is that they just can't find that one click that just really is right for them. And when you find that, you don't compare yourself to other people. You don't look at what other people are doing, because what you're doing is right for you, and you're doing the best for you at that point in time. And you also don't compare yourself to what you were doing previously, because you find the blueprint that actually is what you're supposed to be doing. So in the greatest respect, I think it's actually having someone who is demanding something better for themselves, but doesn't have it yet. And they're acting like they're doing all these things, and they've got all these work commitments, relationship commitments, and they go straight full steam ahead into things, and all these other things start kind of like pulling at them. Oh, but I'm not putting enough time into this now. Okay. And then the fitness falls apart, because they go into the process training 5-6 times a week, like doing all these things, like, like meal prep companies and tracking calories at the weekend, and not making time for going out with your mates and things like that. Like, they don't know how to balance all those things. So what I do is I go, okay, right, that's your life outside of the gym. Let's keep that. But let's make sure the life inside the gym gives us that little bit of stress on the body to get that progress and that drive forwards to not only give you physical progress, but mentally stimulate you enough so you can feel like you can enjoy life without guilt.
Nice. And then, what do you reckon your biggest strength is and your greatest weakness?
Biggest strength, I think, is I'm a realist. Like, I am no BS with a lot of people. Like, when people come at me with like, I don't know, like they've got a mindset towards something that I think is quite negative, or I think it's not going to help them, are they going to do something that they say, oh, can we try doing this? I will just tell them, here's what's going to happen. And some people will find that really difficult. By the way, I'm going to be brutally honest, mate. Like, this is what's going to happen. And they're like, I'm like, well, that's it. You know, I'm such a realist about a lot of stuff. Sometimes I can be quite like cut and dry about a lot of things, but I'm quite like, I only want to put my time into something that's going to yield positive outcomes. And if something doesn't feel like that, I can be very like, nah, I'm done. See you later. You know what I mean? And I think that's a strength of mine, but also it can be, I mean, you can look at it as a weakness, but I would say a weakness of mine is that
Greatest weakness.
the greatest weakness. Terry's chocolate orange. Nah. The greatest weakness. I feel like I don't live in a moment sometimes as much as I should in certain things. And I definitely, I'm getting good at that. That's what traveling is doing for me. I also feel as if recently I've just slowed down in certain aspects of the stress I put on myself, because I can put a lot of stress on myself, a lot of pressure on myself. It's like that thing I told you about in terms of being logical and being objective. That's my weakness. It's not a strength. It sounds like it's a strength, but that is my weakness. And that's my way of dealing with it objectively. So yeah, with the greatest respect, like my strength is being a realist, but like my weakness is actually not taking things personally and being emotional. That's why I said what I said. And that's one thing you have to realize, is that a lot of people aren't actually like, we're not all killing it. So a lot of us are winging it. A lot of us are struggling.
Everyone is winging it.
Everybody has a struggle. Like, you know, someone could be listening to this podcast now and think, oh, these guys have their shit together, but we have our struggles. Yeah. You know what I mean? We have
every day
going on. Yeah. There's stuff going on in our lives that is difficult. And it's fine to have a weakness. Like, it's totally fine as long as you're doing something about it.
Definitely. So then where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Sign up, all that fun stuff.
Bodies.
Plug the shit.
Shameless plug, bodies.by.ben. So Bodies by Ben, that's been the faithful alliteration branding for years to come. I have a few different programs that I use if you're a complete beginner. I have a fat loss program for 8 weeks, which is just really, really easy, accessible, simple to get into. It's affordable for a lot of people as well, because I know there's a crisis going on at the moment. A lot of people stress about money, and I set up that program while I was out in Bali, so people don't feel stressed, and people are like, oh, I can get started, and someone's not going to rip me off. And then my main program, which is more like my private coaching, is Built by Ben, which is like more of a 4-month program where people can work with me and get a life lasting transformation. And yeah, I'm currently working on something it's a 5-day free challenge that people can work with me for free. So at the moment, I'm basically just opening doors for people, but those are the 2 main doors that are open at the moment. You can work with me for 8 weeks, you can work with me for 4 months, or you can just have a call with me and have a chat with me. You don't have to work with me. I don't care. Either way, I just like to network. I like to talk to people. And yeah, drop me a follow if you don't think what I say is a load of BS.
Nice. Everyone watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment your favorite part. Any questions for Ben, leave it in the comment section below. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. And we'll see you next time. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye-bye.